Conor McGregor recently tweeted that he'll be ready to re-enter the USADA testing pool in February 2023. And after completing 2 tests, he will be booking a fight. However, in an interview with ESPN, Avery Walker, USADA Director of Communications, stated McGregor's not enrolled in our testing pool and would have to be, for 6 months unless an exemption is granted, which we don't think would be applicable. End quote. Guys, what do you think of this update from the sport's biggest star, and what do you really expect to happen along the way? Nolan, it's on you.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation. I mean, again, we're kind of entering this uncharted territory where there's either gray area or just rules being made up, for these bigger stars and the issues that they deal with. And I don't necessarily hate the idea of these sort of, adjustments being made for special circumstances that maybe weren't initially considered when USADA got in the MMA game. I mean, we've seen it more recently with a lot of, these pulsing issues that USADA has. And, a lot of the athletic commissions have even adopted the adjustments that USADA has made to deal with those. I mean, some of the things that we would have considered guys to be steroid cheats and users, a few years ago, now it's essentially you get a slap on the wrist or you get monitoring or whatever, and you don't even get suspended. So for me, I don't necessarily hate the idea that if Conor had a special circumstance, which he did, it seems like his leg obviously needed some, or it seems at least believable that his leg needs, some extra care, some extra, maybe some sort of medications that USADA would not otherwise permit. I don't hate him removing himself, but the thing is, I want him to be able to I want him to be on the level field to everybody else. If he removes himself from the pool, he should have to do the 6-month period of ineligibility and testing like everybody else. I think for him to kind of come out and say, oh, I just have to test twice and then I'm back in, that would not be a good look in my opinion. But I don't hate it. I'm not using this against him. I'm not trying to say that he's using for any other reason other than that. I've never snapped my leg in half. It sounds like something that would probably need your max amount of attention, and you'd probably want to do it right, And sometimes I think maybe doing things right for your body is outside of the scope of USADA, especially when it's such a unique circumstance. So I guess we'll see what happens. I'm glad USADA has at least started to speak a little bit. I'm sure him maybe talking about it publicly is giving them a little bit more leeway to talk about it publicly, but we need to find more out about this in general, and kind of just still need like a full explanation. I feel like we're getting parts and bits and pieces from each side, but I think we need the full story here because a lot of it's hearsay. A lot of what I'm saying right now is stuff that I'm assuming or, whatever. I want to hear an actual, description of what happened here.
Yeah. All right, Mike, share your thoughts on this topic.
Yeah, never ends with Conor, right? I mean, I think what Nolan said, I agree with a lot of the sentiments there. If, he needed to do something to get his leg back, obviously, the first thing that comes to mind is stay in the program and apply for a therapeutic use exemption. That's what the whole purpose is for, right? To be able to do something that's maybe a little bit unique and not officially within the scheme, but they can approve it and you can, have approval to do that. But it seems like more, just as much as anything is, Conor's on his world tour on his super yacht and stuff. And the testing situation just kind of became untenable between USADA and himself, trying to get him on these yachts, figure out where he's going to be to do the whereabouts, things. And from kind of what I've heard, maybe they just decided mutually that maybe it's better off to just step out of the pool. And then when you're ready to come back, I think maybe Conor in this situation, maybe overplayed or almost told on himself a little bit too much, right? When you're out there posting, photos looking like a bodybuilder, like he just posted one last night. It's like him in his bar in Ireland. He's walking around with no shirt on, just like flexing like he's Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime or something, right? So it's like, you're not really helping the people out when they see all that stuff come out on your social media and whatnot. But I think that he probably thought when he stepped out of this, as he kind of tweeted, like back in February, 2 clean tests and I'll be good to go. They probably thought that he was going to be able to, do a few tests, jump back in after a month or something and just be ready to go. That seems more and more that's not going to be the case now, based on kind of Mark Ramondi's reporting for ESPN and the statement he got from USADA. I don't think the fact that we've seen all this stuff from Conor of him looking, so big and all these tweets and things like that, that they're going to allow him to walk in the door and maybe give him some sort of special treatment here. I think he is going to have to do the 6 months. Does that really make all that big of a difference? I don't know. I mean, assuming he gets in there in the next 6 weeks or so, that still puts him on a timeline to fight International Fight Week, July in Las Vegas, when I assume the UFC was probably going to want to bring him back anyways. Crazy it would be 2 years since we had seen him fight at that point. But yeah, I think that's kind of where things are aligning here. I don't love the way this whole thing is played out. I understand it from all sides. And like why it's kind of played out as it has, but I think this should be another learning lesson for the UFC, for USADA, for athletes on how to kind of treat circumstances like this, because I don't think it's totally kosher either.
Goes ahora tú.
Dude, I think Mike nailed it there. I mean, that's the part that really bothers me. A little bit of a gray area there, but the fact that he's posting these pictures, he's kind of his own worst enemy. Even calling out, just a couple tests and all that. I'm sure USADA sees that and says, no, but you can't do that. We're in a day and age, guys, where like celebrities and high profile athletes kind of get away with a lot more than just the average folk if we were to do some of these things. And I think people get sick and tired of it, right? And so the one thing that I want to look out for here is consistency. That's such a big thing in sports. You have to be consistent. And if you're gonna play these games with Conor McGregor and let him get away with some of these things, then you're gonna have to do it for other people. And that's the big problem, especially when it comes to USADA, man. It's all about reputation and credibility. If you don't have that, if you damage that even a little bit, none of this works. There's no point in having it, and your reputation just goes down the drain. So whatever it is they decide to do, which it looks like they're going to do the right thing, they have to be consistent with that stance.
Yeah, and I certainly hope that that he can get in before International Fight Week. I'd love to see him return at International Fight Week, but February to 6 months would be August, so maybe Conor meant late January, or maybe they can give him a 1 month exemption. I don't know, but another thing that scares me, guys, is the metabolites too, man. Because you see what happened with John Jones when he tried to get a little bit of size about 5-6 years ago, and he swears, he was just in a powerlifting stage or something like that, and then it came and bit him in the ass so many times.